they are going to shift outside. The third one is the people respond to incentives. Simply because of the application of the taxes, the local producers provide incentives to buy domestic products. So what the foreign firms did was they decided to move their production facility into US in order to take the tax benefit. The next concept that we have proposed is that trade can make everyone better off. So basically, if the one country apply the tariffs in the international trade, it will definitely disrupt the mutual beneficial trade. So retaliated tariffs from China harm the US farmers, especially tax exporters, showing why this kind of a trade will create pains. The final one is a country's standard of living depends on its ability to reproduce. This kind of a policy will definitely boost the certain domestic industry in the short run, but when we consider in the longer run, definitely this will affect the trade efficiency, which will lower the overall productivity and living standards. So next, I would like to invite Pratibha to continue on scenario number 2.
Good evening to all of you. I will be explaining the scenario number 2. So here we will be studying how these principles could be applied for this particular topic, study locally versus study abroad. Right? For example, if we consider this from Sri Lanka point of view, right? A Sri Lankan student must treat University Colombo, University Canadian at a fraction of the cost of pursuing a degree at a foreign university, right? Which involves tuition fees, right? And they have to pay their own rent, right? And they may gain a better income because sometimes they have to work, few number of them locally, right? How these principles, right, would be applicable for this particular scenario, right? Right. Now, first of all, let's have a look at the first principle. Can you hear this? Sorry? Sorry. Can you all hear me? Can you all hear me?
Yeah, Pratibha.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Right now, first of all, we'll consider the first principle. People face trade-offs, right? As you all, abroad offers higher global recognition, but you have to, right? But study, right? You only have a lot of money, right, between studying abroad and locally. As you know, if you decide to study in a foreign country, there's a lot of costs incurring and studying domestic local university. So there is a choice to be made. So as you all know, whenever you choose one option, there is always a trip. You have to give up something. The cost of people is the cost of something. The real studying abroad, tuition, rent, and foreign income, and foregone income. For example, if a student decided to study in a foreign country, right, from the income that they gain, they have to pay their tuition. They might not be able to work full time, right? But if they have worked in a local in a domestic university, if they are studying in a domestic university, sometimes they would have the chance to work as maybe full time, right? There are students while in a full time job, they will pursue their higher studies as well, right? So if they are studying abroad, right, they will not be able to gain the income or gain the same savings that they have earned while they were in Sri Lanka, right? And or if in foreign country, you will have, leisure time is less, right? There's a lot of stress incurred, right? So if you study locally, right, so you may not have parent, right? Sometimes tuition fees you would be able from your salary, right? So if you are studying abroad, one of the main opportunity cost is the income you would have gained by doing a job in Sri Lanka, right?
I think your group, you can stop this
Third
point.
principle is rational people.
You can stop this point. So the one thing, the last time your members, there was one called Bandar, UYAY Bandar. This time two new, Gunawardhan and Liyanagi. I don't know the different names. So
I am
The,
Pratibha Gunawardhan.
Pratibha Gunawardhan. Yeah. Who is the Liyanagi and Bandar?
yeah, the both are same, sir. Bandar is my middle name. Damita Bandara Unit.
Okay, right. Thank you. Right. Another group, if any other group are ready?
Shall I continue or do I have?
No. Any other group?
Shall I start, sir?
Good evening.
Yeah. Give me 1 second.
I
I want to
have
write.
shared
Same group members last time or different? Hello?
same group members. All are present.
Group D, right? Okay. So
Okay.
next time
Good
is the
evening.
group D. Okay, you can start.
Good evening. This is our team. Today our group presentation is about Mankiew's 10 principles of economic and how these principles can be applied to real world economic situations. According to given assignment, we have selected 2 scenarios. Out of the given scenarios, we have selected number 1, government control economy and economic development. Optional scenario is importation of Chinese vehicle on the Sri Lankan automobile industry. Okay, let's dive into first scenario, government control economy and economic development. Government control economy is an economy where the government plays major role in deciding production, prices, and investment activities. This kind of economy, government may control important sectors such as energy, transportation, healthcare, and education to support economic development and social welfare. This type of economy can help country to improve stability, develop infrastructure, and provide public services quickly. However, too much government intervention can also create inefficiencies and limit private sector growth. Now we will see how this scenario can explain according to Mankiew's economic principles. Principle number 1 says, each decision involves trade-off. To get one thing, we need to sacrifice something else. In a government-controlled economy, the government must make trade-off between economic growth and public welfare. When a government spends heavily on subsidies, free education, or healthcare, it improves citizens' living standards. However, this also increases government expenditure and budget deficit. As example, providing fertilizer subsidies to farmers help agricultural production, but increases government spending. Then principle number 4, people respond to incentives. People and businesses change their behavior according to government policies and incentives. For example, when government reduce taxes and provide tax concession, businesses become more willing to invest and expand their operations. On the other hand, high taxes and strict regulation may discourage private investment. This shows how incentive can encourage economic activity and investment. Then principle number 6, it says, markets are usually efficient in organizing economic activities. When a government controls prices too much, market efficiency can reduce. For example, if the government set a low price for rice, farmers may earn lower profit and reduce production. This can eventually create shortages in the market. Therefore, excessive government intervention may negatively affect supply and demand. Then principle number 7, government can sometimes improve market outcomes. Government intervention is important, especially during economic difficulty. That means economic crisis situation. For example, free healthcare and free education improve the quality of life of citizens and provide equal opportunities. These services help improve human capital and long-term economic development. Then principle number 8, a country's standard of living depends on its ability to produce goods and services. When a government invests in infrastructure such as roads, electricity, and transportation, businesses can operate more efficiently. This improves production, create employment opportunities, and support economic growth. Therefore, productivity and infrastructure development are essential for improving living standards. Okay, let's dive into second scenario. Importation of Chinese vehicle on the Sri Lankan automobile industry. Let's dive into, in recent years, Chinese vehicles, in recent years, Chinese vehicles have become very popular in Sri Lanka because they are more affordable and include modern technology, especially electric vehicle technology. This has created major impact on consumers, vehicle dealers, and overall automobile industry in Sri Lanka. Let's see how this scenario is related to Mankiw's principle. Principle number 1, people face trade-off. When buying a vehicle, consumer has to compare different advantages and disadvantages.
I think, sorry, excuse me. I think you can stop this point and we will give to some other group also. Thank you very much. You can stop this point. This is the same group last time. See, it's the same group and you have new members.
See, we have 4 members.
Okay, you can go on. Go.
Good evening to you all. So, with the purpose of applying Mankiw's 10 principles of economics to the real world microeconomic scenarios, we have selected one scenario from the list provided. So the scenario is a family deciding whether to spend or save monthly income. So first of all, let me explain why we have selected this scenario. A family with a limited monthly income must make a crucial decision on how to allocate its resources between current consumption, such as daily living expenses, lifestyle needs, and future savings for purposes like education, emergency, or long-term investments. So, given the constraint of limited income, the family can't fully satisfy both present and future needs simultaneously. And therefore, they must make careful and strategic financial decisions here. So we selected this scenario as it's particularly relevant and reflect a common real-life situation faced by many households, highlighting how individual operates under resource constraint. So in here, this scenario is effectively demonstrates key microeconomic concepts, including scarcity, choice, allocations, and financial planning. So we have selected 5 Mankiw's economic principles as outlined below to illustrate how these principles play a vital role in guiding everyday decisions making pertaining to the selected scenario. So we have selected principle number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. So we will go one by one. So the principle number 1, people face trade-off. So here, to get one thing, we must give up something else. So in here, the family must balance present consumption with future financial security. Spending more today on daily needs means saving less for future goals, such as education, emergencies. So in the principle number 2, the cost of something else, something is what you give up to get it. So in here, the true cost includes the value of the next best alternative. So in here, if the family spends more money on entertainment or luxury goods, they give up the opportunity to save or investment. So in the principle number 3, rational people think at margin. So the decisions are made by comparing additional benefits and cost here. The family evaluates whether an additional expense provide enough satisfaction compared to the benefits and savings. So in the principle number 4, people respond to incentives. So in here, the behavior change when cost or benefits change. For an example, higher interest rates encourage savings, while discounts, promotions, so rising inflations may encourage spending. As the principle number 6, markets are usually a good way to organize economic activities. So the prices of the market allocate resources efficiently through supply and demand. For an example, supermarkets adjust prices based on the demand without direct government control, helping balance supply and demand automatically. So the in here, market price guide the family in allocating income effectively across foods, transport, education, and other expenses effectively. So
sorry to disturb you. Sorry to disturb you. This principle number 6, how relevant to your scenario directly?
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Can
Actually, without intervening the government, market is controlling its supply and demand automatically. So in such scenario, so the market price guide the family. So in allocating their income, limited income from the savings and their consumption. So
did you check
the market
you get that AI support? Or did you get
yes,
this?
we have checked with the AI as well.
Okay. Okay, go on.
So these principles provide a practical framework to understand on how a family can decide whether to spend or save in monthly income, enabling them to better interpret the economic challenges we face and to make more rational and effective decisions in real life scenario. So I will invite my colleague to continue with the next part of the presentation. So over to you, Yugandhi.
Thank you, Resha. We are in second scenario. Am I audible to you?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Related to monthly principal apply. Sri Lanka experiences economic crisis due to shortage of foreign exchange, high inflation, food shortage. By early 2020, Sri Lanka's foreign exchange reserve had fallen to critical level, making it nearly impossible to take a total reserve such as fuel, medicine, and food. Inflation reached over 70%, only causing sales, hardship, and ordinary households, particularly in food and fuel costs. Considering the monsoon principle applied to our current scenario, so the principle of the whole trade can make everyone better off. Sri Lanka is heavily import-dependent country. In key point of view, a small resource limited economic like Sri Lanka, international trade is not optional, it is structural. Another principle number 7, government can sometimes improve market outcomes. The government reduce tax reform, revise pricing mechanisms, import restrictions, and target welfare transfers. This principle shows that well-defined government interventions can correct market failures, but poorly defined intervention can move things first. The next principle number 8, standard of living depends on productivity. Recovery depends on increasing productivity capacity across tourism, agriculture, IT export, and manufacturing. higher production prices income created employment and improved living standards in this long run. Another principle number 9, prices when government prints too much money in 2022 to what happens to money for their creditors, fiscal deficit, finance through money creation directly to the inflation crisis. This is one of the real-world examples of this principle. Inflation hit more than 70% within a short period. Another principle in this scenario, principle number 10, short-run trade-off between inflation and unemployment. To reduce inflation to downward interest rates and cut spending, which showed economic unbalance raise unemployment in the short term. And the insights to the driving inflation is necessary, it not come with a short-term cost to jobs and growth. This is end of our presentation. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And those period, you said the foreign exchange crisis, and if you look at the depreciation, dollar depreciation, now is higher than that period. So it's mean that is this also economic crisis right now. Anyway, because you look at the dollar now depreciate faster than those times. Any group, anyone else?
Shall I start, sir?
Yes, you share. I want to see the group and group names. Now, yeah, I want to see your group names. Now, everybody present this group because I did not ask previous group.
No, 4 members are present.
Who absent?
Not absent.
Sunday and Chowday. Okay. Is the same members as last time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank go on.
Today we are present how Mankey's economics principles are affected to this 3 scenario. My part is explain justification for this selection. First one is actually highly relevant and meaningful topic and directly affected to students' life and practical issue. Second topic is globally economic issues and practical one, and also easy to analyze using Mankey's principle. Third one, we have actually real life experience about that and connected with government policy. Mr. Raj, my friends, Mr. Raj will continue our presentation.
Good evening, senior professor, my team members and colleagues. This presentation, am I audible, sir? Hello? Am I audible? Yes, sir. Yeah, thank you. This presentation focus on McQueen's 10 principle of academics to real-world microeconomic scenario. To explain these McQueen 10 principles, and really focus on the how to handle limited resources with the unlimited demands or needs. To explain that, we choose the out of the 10 principles, our team choose the second principle. The cost of something is what you give up to get it. Under case study of case scenario number 4, decision of the student to attend the university full-time is part-time work. Under this topic, first we say people face trade-offs. The student's time is limited here, the student time is limited, hence he has to choose either full-time studies or part-time work. If the students the more he spends on studying the full time, he has a less time to earn the money working on the part-time basis. Second, cost of something is what you give up to get it. Everything has an opportunity cost. because of this resources, scarcity of the resources, opportunity cost of the full-time studies is the money he has could have to earn by the working in the part-time basis. With that money, he could curve luxury life instead of the listening the lectures. Can you move the yes? Third one, rational people think at the margin. The rational people take decision based on the marginal results. The student decided to start full-time having considered the marginal increases in his salary. After getting the further, he can see the marginal changes in the living standard after studies. My presentation, excuse me. The more the people, can you move the next slide? Hello, Nalaka, can you move the next slide? The people respond to incentives. Student positively respond to studies only if the studies will give him the better salary. Otherwise, he will go for the incentives of working part-time, which he gives a comparatively higher living standards. Fifth one, government can improve the market outcomes. If the student thinks of his current well-being and goes for the part-time work, his studies are in the jeopardy. However, government can intervene and they give a scholarship for the students to continue their salaries. His decision can be influenced by the government intervention also. I hand over to Laxi to take the next slide. Thank you. Laxi.
Yes. Good evening, sir, and good evening to all. In this case, in Trump's case, we all know that he imposed import tariffs for various countries, but the important thing is for various ratios. We wish that if he can consider our cost, but he not considered that. He only considered USA's trade balance with those countries. If one country earns surplus with the USA, he applied more tariff, and if there is a deficit, it will be low. So in that case, Sri Lanka has a surplus with the USA, so Sri Lanka has to pay comparatively high import tariffs. So in this case, we will try to analyze this with the 10 principles which we learned in the last week. Mainly, countries went to make their adjustment based on economic principles. But in this case, one positive thing we have shown that because of this these import tariffs, it can reduce world trade volume and simultaneously production. So in that case, natural resources might get beneficial because of that burden on that natural resource, especially from China, India, likewise. So with applying the first principle, people have to sacrifice something to get something. So in this case, if we still need to earn in the USA market, we have to sacrifice some of our revenue as trade tariffs. So trade-offs are there. In the concept of margin, and the second one is people respond to incentives. Especially for the Sri Lanka, country like Sri Lanka, this can give incentive to explore other markets as well as to to diversify our export basket, as Canada did with this tariff problem. And trade can make everyone better off international trade allows countries to specialize and buy goods at lower prices, but in this case, free trade not there and may decrease overall economic welfare of the world. And the other one, market are usually good way to organize economic activity because of supply and demand. But in this case, market forces not actually effective because of that very much high tariff rates. Last one, people face trade-offs. As I said earlier, to earn more in the USA market, people have to sacrifice something as from their revenue as trade tariffs. And when it comes to margins, in this case, actually there is an increase in tariff, but simultaneously sometimes we need to consider currency depreciation, and with that depreciation, with that currency depreciation, foreign demand might get increased. So in that case, sometimes we can earn much, but in this case, given that normally in Sri Lanka, products in world has inelastic demand. So in that case, sometimes this not work, but we suggest that when considering margins, we have to see all the scenarios. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Lakshri, and good evening to everyone.
You can stop this point because I asked only two. And any other group? First, I want to see the group members' names. The group B, the same members or different?
No, sir. Same members.
All right. All right.
Okay. I'm going to describe
Group B.
Mankew's.
Group B, sure, because they have different names. Last time you get only surname, first name, I think. Okay, right, I got it. Okay, go on.
Okay, no, sir.
Go on, go on.
I'm going to describe how Mankew's principles applying theoretical foundations to real-world financial and microeconomic scenarios. And first scenario is rising rice prices in Sri Lanka. This presentation explains how increase in rice prices affect households, farmers, markets, government policies, and inflation. Rice is an essential food in Sri Lanka, so when its price rises, the whole economy feels the impact. Now let's see which principles are going to apply to this. First principle, when rice price increase, families cannot spend money freely on everything. They may need to reduce spending on meat, clothing, entertainment, education, just to afford food. People must choose between important needs because income is limited. As an example, a family may skip buying new clothes to buy enough rice. Then principle number 4, people respond to incentives. That means high rice prices change behavior of farmers and consumers. Let's see farmers. Higher prices encourage farmers to produce more rice because profits increase, and the consumers try cheaper substitutes food like wheat flour, manioc, and bread. Simple idea in this is price changes motivate people to act differently. Principle number 6, market organize economic activity. That means the market system works through supply and demand. When rice becomes scarce, rice producers increase supply. Resources shift toward rice farming. This is called the invisible hand. Markets naturally guide production without the government telling everyone to do. And we are going to apply principle number 7 here. Governments can improve market outcomes. The government may intervene when people cannot afford essential food. They will take possible actions like price ceilings, subsidies, import controls, and food assistance. Why? To reduce inequality and help poor households. But too much intervention can create shortages, black markets, and lower supply. Government intervention can help, but it also has risks. Principle number 9, prices rise when too much money is printed. That means inflation can happen when the central bank increases the money supply too much. If more money enters the economy while goods remain limited, the value of money falls and prices will be rise. During economic difficulties, money printing and budget deficits contributed to inflation and reduced the purchasing power of the Sri Lankan rupee. And the overall message in these 3 slides, rice prices are not just about food, they connect to economic behavior, inflation, markets, and government policy. It uses economic theory to explain why prices rise, how people react, how governments respond, how inflation affects daily life. So this is basically a practical application of economics to real Sri Lankan economic issue. And over to you, Shamal.
So moving on to scenario number 2, where the central bank increases interest rates to curb runaway inflation. When inflation becomes too high, the central bank may increase interest rates to slow down spending and borrowing of the market. We're going to apply principle number 2 first, which is opportunity cost. When interest rates rise, spending money today becomes more expensive because people give up the opportunity to earn higher returns through savings. For an example, a customer of a luxury goods store may not choose to buy the luxury good now, and they rather choose to save that money in order to earn interest income later. Principle number 3, thinking at the margin. Businesses make decisions by comparing marginal cost and marginal benefit. So if borrowing costs become very high, a firm may delay investment projects unless the expected return is greater than the high interest expense. For an example, if the interest rate is, let's say, at 30% and the return on investment of a project for a firm is, let's say, 20%, that project would not be feasible for the company to proceed with. Principle number 5, trade can make everyone better off. Higher domestic interest rates may attract foreign investors into Sri Lanka because they can earn better returns here.
You can stop this point, and thanks. And any other group ready? Group A.
Good evening.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Yes.
4 members, right? Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
you can go. You can continue.
Good evening. We will be analyzing 2 important economic issues affecting Sri Lanka through the lens of 10 principles of the economic introduced by Gregory Mankiw. The first issue we have chosen is the recent Middle East conflict, and the second issue we have chosen is the brain drain and migration of skilled workers from Sri Lanka. So when we look at the Middle Eastern crisis, this has created a significant global economic uncertainty through rising oil prices, supply chain disruptions, and higher transportation costs. As Sri Lanka is heavily dependent on fuel imports and other imports, these global developments have had a significant impact on the local economy. So higher global fuel prices have raised transportation and production costs across many sectors, while supply chain disruptions have affected the cost and availability of imported raw materials and goods. So we will try to go through this, analyze this economic issue through the Mankiw's 10 principles. So the first principle we have chosen is the people face trade-offs. So due to rising global fuel prices, transportation and energy cost increase significantly in Sri Lanka. The businesses has to make decisions as to whether to reduce production, increase prices, or to cut down on employment, or to absorb the cost. So consumers also have to trade off between reducing spending or on the non-essential goods. And the second principle is the people respond to incentives. In this case, the fuel prices, increase of fuel prices on businesses and consumers change their behavior. So this is a negative incentive, we would say. When the fuel prices increase, the businesses may reduce their deliveries, and they may opt for cheap alternatives, while consumers may spend less on those products and or might opt for cheap alternatives. I would invite Geet to present the others. Geet, you can go from
Can
the
you hear me? Hello. So okay, I'll start with the trade-offs can make everyone better off. So in Sri Lanka, in the small and medium enterprises depend heavily on imports and export markets. So
Geet,
however,
can you move to the previous slide?
oh,
You're on the second slide.
sorry.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, you can see now. I think there is a connection issue.
Now okay.
Okay, so sorry about that. So I'm explaining the trade can make everyone better off. So in here, Sri Lankan small and medium enterprises depend heavily on imports and export markets. So however, disruptions in global trade and higher shipping costs negatively affect businesses, and this demonstrates how economies are interconnected and how global conflicts can impact local markets. And the fourth one is governments can sometimes improve market outcomes. As we can see in Sri Lanka, to reduce the economic pressure, the Sri Lankan government introduced to support measures such as fuel subsidies and import controls and financial assistance programs. And the government intervention can help stabilize markets during the economic crisis. So to continue with that, I'll invite our Peshali.
Okay, you can stop this point. Your group. Any other group?
Hi, good evening, everyone. So today we'll be explaining how the Mankiew's principles are associated with the real-world scenarios. So the principles that we've selected are principle number 6. Markets are usually a good way to organize economic activity. Principle number 1. People face trade-offs. Principle number 9, prices rise when the governments print too much money. Principle number 7, governments can sometimes improve market outcomes. And principle number 8, a country's standard of living depends on its ability to produce goods and services. So the scenarios that we've selected are scenario 1, government controlled economy and economic development. And the real world scenario that we selected is Sri Lanka's economic crisis back in 2022 and 2023. So my friend Shakya will be continuing the presentation from this point onwards.
Small thing, and
Yes.
did you present the last time you could make the presentation
No, sir,
last time?
we weren't here for the
It's a
last. We weren't
new
here for the
group,
last.
right?
Yeah, yes, yeah.
Yes, can you go to the names that I want to read?
Yes.
Vijay Singh, Jayasekhar, and Gunasingh, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Right, now we can go.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anup. For first scenario, we look at the relationship between a government-controlled economy and economic development. First, the principle that markets are usually a good way to organize economic activity shows that market economies generally allocate resources more efficiently through supply and demand. This often leads to higher productivity and faster economic growth compared to heavily controlled economies. Second, people face trade-offs. In government-controlled economies, policymakers often prioritize goals like price stability or social welfare. However, achieving these can come at the cost of economic efficiency and long-term growth. For example, heavy subsidies may help consumers in the short term, but can create large deficits. Third, the principle that prices rise when the government prints too much money is relevant because governments with strong control over economic policy may finance spending by increasing the money supply, which can create inflation. Fourth, governments can sometimes improve market outcomes through investment in public goods such as infrastructure, healthcare, and education. These support long-term development because private firms may underprovide them. Finally, the principle that a country's standard of living depends on its ability to produce goods and services highlights that excessive control can reduce productivity through bureaucracy, inefficient state-owned enterprises, and slower decision-making, ultimately lowering living standards. Our second scenario applies these same principles to Sri Lanka's economic crisis in 2022 and 2023. The first principle
Okay,
was...
this point, sorry, this point you can stop also. Any other group? I want to see group names.
Sir,
The same members of the last time or different members?
yes, sir. Same now. Same group name, please.
I don't remember the group name, neither A or B. Yeah. Okay, fine.
No, sir.
I will check and go on.
Okay, Senior Professor Mr. Premratna and my dear colleagues, our group selected topic the impact of the recent Middle East conflict on the small businesses. So, moving to the justification, rising the geopolitical tensions involving the United States, Israel, and Iran have disrupted the global crude oil supply and the energy market, leading to the economic impacts worldwide. So, those are the 5 economic principles we identified. Moving to the first one is supply chain vulnerability. It is related to principle number 1, people face trade-off. Iran's closure of the Strait of Hormuz disrupted 20% of global crude oil supply. The resulting price shock forced every small businesses. Now moving to the efficiency, the small businesses respond to cost shocks through the price increases and workforce reduction. And moving to the equity, business absorb rising costs, retain the employees during the revenue declines. Mankiw's principles tell us that there is no free lunch. When oil prices spike due to the geopolitical disruption, small business cannot simultaneously maintain full efficiency and full equity. Like an example, a restaurant that rises prices sharply to maintain efficiency loses its lower income customers. Over to you, Tilni.
Thank you, Hasanko. I'm going to discuss the economic principle of the cost of something is what you get up to get it. That means the opportunity cost due to scarcity of resources. Let's discuss how this economic reality links to small businesses due to Middle East conflict with 3 selected points. First one, supply chain sacrifices. To get necessary inventory, small businesses trade off reliability for higher prices, longer lead time, or the added expenses of vetting entirely new local suppliers. Second one, capital and borrowing. The cost of securing business loan rises, meaning owners give up larger portion of their monthly cash flows to service debt. Third one, capital margin squeeze. Small businesses often lack the leverage to pass the inflated cost directly to local customers without losing market share. The cost of maintaining sales become eroded profit margin and halted hiring. Next slide, please, Hasankar. Next principle is society faces a short-run trade-off between inflation and unemployment. This means cost push inflation. Let's see how this links to small businesses due to recent Middle East conflict with two selected points. First one, global supply shocks and oil prices volatility. The conflict has severely disrupted oil and gas infrastructure and restricted transit through vital waterways like the Strait of Hormuz, pushing Brent crude prices back over $100. These escalating prices inflate the cost of gasoline, diesel, and aviation fuel globally, which drastically rises production and transportation cost. Second one, the shift of Phillips curve. Because of this price increase is driven by supply rather than domestic consumer demand. It breaks the standard Phillips curve trade-off. Instead of having to choose between high inflation, low unemployment, or low inflation, high unemployment, economies suffer from both. Businesses are forced to pass these higher costs on to consumers while reducing output and laying off workers to survive. Okay, thank you. Over to you, Nisar.
Okay, thank you, Tirani. Next principle I'm going to talk about is a country's standard of living depends on its ability to produce goods and services. We all know the Middle East conflict negatively affected small businesses in Sri Lanka as well as all over the world because it's disrupt productivity and increased business costs. Many countries depend on the Middle East for oil and major trade routes. During the war happened recently, the fuel prices increased and transportation became more expensive, and supply chains were also delayed. Uh, because of that, the small business usually have limited saving and resources in Sri Lanka. So higher cost for fuel, raw materials, and uh, imports reductions. Their ability to produce goods and services efficiently and in full capacity, they can't produce anymore. For the example, if we take small delivery business in Sri Lanka faced the increase in transportation and electricity cost due to rising global oil prices. At the same time, the fuel quota system implemented in
Okay.
Sri Lanka.
Okay, you can stop this point. And so, did you present the last time?
Yeah, we are the same
group?
team. Yeah.
So you don't remember the name. The previous group, the last time presented Sunday, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You can go on.
Okay, sir. Good evening, everyone. We are a four-member group, including Shashika, Sandaruan, Arusha, and myself. Today, we will be discussing the real-life applications of Menkiu's 10 principles of economics by using two scenarios. You can see this slide. And rising price of rice and daily essentials in Sri Lanka. Our scenario is then we choose this scenario because it perfectly illustrates how inflation forces households into difficult trade-offs while demonstrating the critical role of government intervention during severe market failures. Can you move to the next slide? Okay. We applied scenario 1. On the consumer side, principle 1 shows the trade-offs families face. Fixed income forces household to cut back on health and education to afford food. This leads to principle 4, where consumers respond to incentives by shifting their spending away from expensive rice toward cheaper alternatives like wheat, like that. On the policy side, in Principle 6 shows how shortages disrupt natural market signals for producers. To counter this, Principle 7 highlights government intervention where the state sets a maximum retail price ceiling to protect struggling citizens. However, this intervention triggers Principle 2 regarding opportunity costs, as funding a rice subsidy means sacrificing resources that could have built roads and infrastructure. Over to you, Sanduru.
Thank you, Supun. Moving on to the our second scenario, we will look at the choice to invest in the personal professional qualification for career enhancement. We chose this scenario because it highlighted personal economics, decision making, and human capital development, explaining how individual invest their current resources to secure greater future returns. Uh, Moving on to the next slide, we'll share the principle applied to the scenario, our scenario. In page 1, we see principle 1 and 2 in the action. The individual faces trade-off and opportunity cost, sacrificing current saving, leisure, and family relaxation time to study. As we move into the phase 2, principle 3 applies. The individual thinking at the marginal, ensuring the cost of the MBA is justified by the marginal increase in their future monthly salary. By
Sorry
phase
to disturb
3.
you. You can stop this point, and we will invite another group. Thanks. Any other group? Any other group? Okay. I think that's all. A few things related to your presentation and the same thing come for the final exam. And I noticed that some of them really did not understand how to apply those principles in the correct scenario, correct place and alignment. Be careful when the exam paper, when you answer. Second one, I might ask the question, if someone or some society or some economy works against the principle, some of the principle, selected principle, you should be able to answer positive or negative effect of this, someone try to work against this. Okay, these are the questions you might get. With this, let me start the lectures and share the screen with the lecture note, what I did. I hope everybody can see it. And so I look quickly what I discussed last week, basically those 10 principles. So you already now make the presentation. Then those who joined today only, not last week, these are the 10 principles I discussed. And PERSPO principle related to how individual make the decisions. The second the second group of principle, 5 to 7, 3 principles, how people interact with the society, the last 3 principles as a whole, the society works. So I'm not going to explain each principle since the first principle trade-off. So that happened, like we already discussed, resources are limited, your requirement or needs or demands unlimited. Overall, if you can see the government try to this way, the efficiency, other side, the equality. one of the group mentioned that the economic growth and the public welfare is a trade-off, but I'm not sure that's really correct, because the public welfare also you can optimize in keeping the economic growth, but it's not the like Sri Lankan policymakers doing. But these two, I mean, really not trade-off. Like economic growth and public welfare. You can improve the public welfare same time that the economic growth happen. So it's, I think, the wrong understanding. And the second principle is related to opportunity cost. Every actions you have opportunity cost, since the resources are limited and your demands are unlimited, then opportunity cost created. And so we did the example. And the third one, rational people think at margin. I mean, if you take a decision, mainly look at the marginal benefit, marginal value, marginal disadvantages, and take that's the fourth principle. We individual rational people react or respond the incentives. For example, if you work hard, if you give more money, so you work hard continuously. The opposite happen when you work hard, the government impose tax, and that kind of reverse way happen against this principle. And the distributivity also same thing. And so this is a very important principle to understand. And reaction in the society, trade can make everyone better off. That everyone know the trade with the individual society always better off. Like I explained, even the society can bring to the all the Pareto improvement level and the economic nirvana situation level using the same resources and technology. The principle number 6, that is also very important in Sri Lankan to understand, especially current situation, current policy scenario. The markets are usually good way to organize economic activity. The market is the starting point to answer this question: what produce, how to produce, who to produce, those kind of economic questions. The market give the signal, and then this principle come in. Due to market failure, government can improve sometime the outcome. Even the word in this principle used the sometime. It's not always. Government can improve if the government is worse. That's what it may be. The word used the sometime. So that is the thing. Why? Because the market failure happened, like I explained last time. Where the market failure happened, I explained the people or society fall down to the second step of the second step. So they are the take back to the top level. We need the government or institution that we call government. The last time I asked you to observe the traffic, they are the government like the police officers. There you can see even the more than the government using new technology, create the more efficiency in the system. We can introduce some kind of a system also. Think of more than government, what we can do in the economy when create the market failure, how the economy or society can bring even above the Pareto optimal level. Maybe somewhere around, somewhere touching, I make a final exam question. So these are the reasons for the market failure, what we discussed. The last point is really not the imperfect information, pessimistic information. There maybe we can add imperfect knowledge in addition, sorry, instead of imperfect information. But pessimistic information, real killer, the market failure. And the last three principles related to society as all, even this is real for individual also. The standard of living depend on the ability to produce goods and services, which means that policymakers has to think of productivity improvement and bring the welfare at that level rather than depend on funding, grants, begging, and the loan. Even the loan, if we use, they have to use the productivity purpose, and there only society can bring reality and the high level welfare level. So Now, this is the difference between what we in Sri Lankan economics policymakers, what we did and doing right now. So you can see reality and the situation. And this is the things happen, related to economic crisis period. People, they didn't resign, resignations kind of thing happened, job market. And this kind of scenario, you think of how to apply to the different principle. That may be the one of the exam questions, kind of exam question I will give you. And so this is also some kind of cases, and you can see how this principle, what we learned to apply these cases. The last, ninth principle, prices rise, which means the inflation create when the government print madly or too much. So that is last principle, society pays trade-off short term between inflation and trade. So why these now look at here, I took from, that is 2024, US Department of Agriculture. So the USA really funding 47 projects in the different states here, providing electricity and clean drinking water more than billions and it would playing job across the nation. So you can see how this intervention, the government intervention, create economic development as well as the social welfare. Correct place, rather than giving subsidies directly to improve infrastructure and the productivity. So that's within applicable, for example, living standard, improve, correct intervention, and more production, productivity also improve. Look at the cases like this. I will give the exam papers also cases like that. You should be able to analyze and using principle, you should be able to make a discussion. And if I summarize, these are the principles what we discussed. These 4 principles related to individual make decision. Next 3 principles interact in the society, government intervention, market, and trade-off. Last principle, standard for living depend on productivity, inflation with printing money, and the short-term inflation and unemployment. So these are the exercise. This is the exercise I gave you, and so you made the presentation. And again, think of your presentation really whether you, because some of you just explain the principle, not really aligns with this kind of a concept. Think of that one. Now, with that, I'm going to introduce the demand and supply discussion. Before that, what we discussed previously, few concepts all we have to look at. The firms we discussed, the one side that is very important, and that's related to firms. Entrepreneurs also another important concept what we discussed. Two institution, what we discussed previously, the circular, the economic chart, the firms and the household. So, and also another 2 concept what we discussed, only one concept, but the 2 things in the goods market and the factor market. So this is the chart, circular flow, and what we look at the household and the firms, and these are 2 markets, output markets, and those all the demand and supply transaction or action go through the market, either factor market or output market. Here, this is the system what we discussed, the neoclassical economics. And this system also I took to understand the difference between microeconomics and macroeconomics. And this system, like I explained, is produce the economic nirvana, though neoclassical economics believe that they produce the economic nirvana. Reality is not like that, because the society can't reach to that point and they drop down to the second level. To intervention to the second level, another institution came as the government. So the government role is to take the people and keep them back to the top position. The policies introduced here, what we call second best policy, to address the market failure. If the society fall down to some other later steps, we need a different policy. For example, third level fall down, we need a third best policy, and like that, the fourth best policy, or like that, different policies. So those things we discussed. Another thing I want to, last time also I asked to observe traffic behavior and think of another presentation, not the next week anyway, coming, and the final exam question also. Neoclassical economics, we microeconomics always talk about rational individual, and rational individual in terms of household consumption, producers, rational producers, and the neoclassical economics believe that the rational individual, when they behave in the society, entire society also reach the optimal level. But the reality, the kind of against the neoclassical economics, think of, and to develop kind of a argument against this rational individual behavior. Though theoretically we talk about rational individual, people not behave rationally, or people behave rationally, but the outcomes, even then, not the entire society lie down, individual themselves also, they don't get, or individuals themselves also cannot reach to the optimal level if people behave rationally. Because the long term, that may not happen. It's not because of the market failure or thing. Maybe one of the key variable, key factor, they are the knowledge. Because in case of different knowledge, for example, in the same society, we have people, not the same knowledge, different knowledgeable people work within the society. So ultimately, society and individual never better off. So another thing also, though we expect individual behave rational, and the neighborhood impact or group impact, families, relatives, and neighbors impact also creates some kind of impact on decision making. So in that way, though individually you try to behave rational, it's the group behavior also is a really matter there. Think of that. Maybe I'll give an exam question and the presentation also to find some cases in different field. One, for example, banking sector, how people behave rationally, microfinance, bank, and the other sector. And last time also I asked you to observe 2 weeks the traffic behavior. Those kind of cases you think of. And this is the things what we discuss on the market and the
circular economy system. Right. Now it's come to demand and supply. Here, since I met you, basically the department, and we had introduction, I noticed that except one or two, everybody has a basic knowledge. I'm not going to teach you this time, though this slide there, A to Z demand and supply thing this time. So I'll start with the basic, but then quickly move kind of a standard application thing. Right. If you look at the demand, it's not like real world, what you say, I need your requirement. To make it the concept fulfill as a demand, two concepts important. One is your willingness, your preference. The other one is the affordability. So there are two things. Though you want it, you like it, you're willing to it, if you don't have buying money or ability to pay, we can't use the concept as a demand. So to fulfill the concept demand, we need these two concepts, willingness and ability, affordability. There, when you discuss later on, you can see utility and the budget come in. They are create the demand. You will learn how it's happened. Now here, the exam also, I give a kind of cases like this. This is a COVID period. So how is affect to demand and supply different product? It's you can see here industries differently affect to the demand. For example, highly affected the demand and supply both leisure and hospitality industry. So this time the Middle East conflict situation, you can think of how affect to the different industries. So think of these kind of practical scenarios, practical situation to apply demand and supply concept. Now, when you look at the demand, one of the important concept you have to understand the law of demand. The law of demand is basically mean a relationship between the price and quantity of demand. But if someone just say the relationship between these two is not really correct. The relationship between this price and quantity of demand is a negative relationship between these two concepts. We consider as a demand. But if you try to make this definition somewhere as it is, that is also not true. Then the real definition it may correct, but you have to say negative relationship between the quantity of demand and the price with the other thing remain constant. We call set variables assumption. Now, if other things change, we will learn what are the other things later on. Other factor 1 or 2 change, this not happen. Due to law of demand, the price, if you take this axis, this is quantity, demand curve gets a negative slope demand curve. Negative slope demand curve will get. So the slope is negative. That's what you get. It's important to understand. In the exam, I'm not going to ask this definition, but to understand the law of demand is the basically when you define, apply two concepts. One is the negative relationship between price and quantity of the quantity, and the other thing remain constant. Now, here, very simple demand chart, you can see the price and the quantity. We can put it into
one side price, the other side quantity. Put these numbers, you can draw the curve. That's what we call demand curve. This curve or this chart we can convert into equation. In the mathematically, you can put into the equation. If you very complicated data set, you can use the regression analysis and whatever the statistic package you use, and you can get this demand, what you call demand function. Now you have three things: demand table chart, demand here figures function, curves, and the equation, what you call demand function. So the exam or real exercise, you should be able to, if you give in the table, this simple table, you should be able to how to get into the demand function. If you give curve, you should be able how to get into the curve function. Even if you give the function like that, you should be able to convert into demand curve and this table. I think that's very simple. And with that simple, here, demand function, if you look at here, this, I write it here, QT equal, here 16 minus 2P. The minus is always come theoretically, it's according to law of demand. Now, let's say if you are doing the PhD or master thesis, you run a model and demand function, let's say tourism or whatever demand function. The hypothesis, theoretical hypothesis, conceptualization theoretically, law of demand, the negative relationship. This coefficient must be negative. Now, let's say when you run the model, all the mathematical formation correct and all the data you clean and everything, suppose you get the positive. Now, you see, that is against the law of demand. Then you have to find the reason for that. Some specific good, you might get the positive relationship. It is against the law of demand. That may happen. So when you run the model, you have to check whether the hypothesis theoretically correct. And if not, you rerun the model, even rerun the model, same result, you have to find the reason for that. Now, what I try to say here, when you draw here, this is the slope is getting negative 2 here. This is also very important, 16, when you draw the curve. I go to next slide here. Here. What we get the curve here, the function what we have, Qt equal 16 minus 2p. Now, if you were given this function, now you should be able to draw directly this demand function, demand curve. If it is a linear demand curve, find 2 points that the vesting vertical intercept and the horizontal intercept. Then you can draw the curve. Now, horizontal intercept, definitely when the price is 0, this becomes 0. You get the horizontal is that value here coming 16. You can see here 16 come. The vertical intercept, when the quantity is 0, you can get it with a 0. Then the answer becomes 16 divided by 2. The P, you get the 8. So this point very important. I'm not saying this is also not important, but this point really very important for our discussion later on, for your analysis if you are a PhD student or doing some kind of willingness to pay thing. Now, this point is very important. That point, what we call maximum willingness to pay. Later on, we'll take this concept, maximum willingness to pay. At least the one consumer, if this is the market demand curve, at least one consumer willing to pay 8. It doesn't mean that all the consumers, some consumers may be willing to pay $4. Okay. Now, suppose the market price is $4. The market price is $4. If those who consumers willing to pay, for example, the market price is $4. Let's say some consumers willing to pay $6. For this particular consumer, let's say the consumer A, per unit, he gets the surplus. That's what we call consumer surplus. Consumer surplus. So that is very important concept for later discussion. Sorry, consumer surplus. His consumer surplus per unit, the individual consumers, $2. Now, if he buy, let's say 100 unit, you can see how much is consumer surplus, this particular consumer surplus. So you can measure this amount you see. Now, if this is the market demand curve, the maximum willingness to pay 8, total consumers, the consumers surplus, you can find easily. That is the area value here, this triangular here. If the linear curve, so this value we can find here, difference is 4. Here difference is 100. So divide by 2, because if you take, you get this rectangle. So you have to remove this one. Divide by 2, you will get the answer. If the consumer surplus is 20, let's say 20 million. This is coming as the money value, $20 million. That is very important concept. As a consumer, the society, for imagine this particular goods consume everybody in the society. So if the price is poor, society get benefit this $20 million. That's what we call consumer surplus. In other words, what we can say, the consumer side welfare. Welfare improve. Why I said this welfare? Because this 20 million, or if you take the individual, like I explained here, if you buy 1 unit, the person A, he saved $2 because he willing to pay. For example, let's say with this lecture time, you still in the bar, you having some cup of beer, cup of wine, glass of wine. You went there to willing to pay $6, but really when you went there, you get only $4. Then you save $2. With this $2, either you can take another half beer, or this $2 you can go to somewhere and buy a chocolate or something, or you can save this $2. So whatever thing, this additional $2 help you to improve your welfare. Previously, let's say you improve your welfare situation is W1. Since this happened, now your welfare improve, you become a W2 level. Now our policymakers has to think, that is the very important point here. The policymakers has to think how to improve the consumer's welfare. But that's not the only case. Later on, supply side also we discussed, we had to think of another thing also, because sometimes when you try to improve the consumer's welfare, it negatively affects the supply. So the consumers has a quite a dilemma. So, but if you look at the demand curve side, so this concept very important your level to understand is a part of the social or welfare of the society, the consumer's welfare. Policymakers now have to think, and also I discuss later on also. Now, for example, if you reduce the price 4 to 3, definitely you can see consumer surplus improve, this part, or social welfare improve. But the problem here, when the government or policymakers reduce the price, later we can see that's negatively affect to the supply. So then the policymakers has to think different model, a different way how to improve consumer surplus or social welfare. Basically the consumer side welfare. So that kind of understanding I need from you the final exam. So how in this situation, now let's say you want to improve, not just giving the Samurti, not giving the Aswasuma increase the 25, how to improve social consumer surplus, rather than government intervention reduce the price. And rather than just government give kind of a 25,000 Aswasuma money or something. The different innovative way to improve the consumer surplus while maybe improving producer surplus. Or ultimately has to reach the whole system, whole community welfare improvement. So that's the task. That's the things I need from you in the final exam. Understanding. I give a case, you have to do that. Now, this thing I discussed. Now here, the demand curve again, but I'm not going to discuss because this is very simple. We already discussed. Now, this is important to understand. Now here, I'm talking about individual demand. Helen's demand, suppose 16, 14 in the different price, and then you can see that according to law of demand, when the price increase, quantity of demand decrease. So that is the again. So that is the law of demand. And another consumer here, again, is also same thing. When the price goes up, demand reduce, both of them. So aligns with the law of demand, no issue. Now here, what I try to teach you, when the individual demand, if you have like this, how to get the market demand, how to get the market demand curve, how to get the market demand function, how to get the market demand function. Now here, just you can see two individual in the market or the society, adding this value, directly you can get the market demand. Easily you can get a 24, you can see 21, just add like that. So the exam, you think this kind of a simple exercise also. Given individual demand, how to get the market demand. How to get the market demand. Now here, the important thing. In the exam, I don't give the kind of a table. I give the individual demand function like this. individual demand function like that. Now say the previous two table, hence demand function, if you convert this table into function, you get the this one 16 minus 2p. The hence, sorry, if you convert into demand function, you get the 8 minus p. These two individual demand function, these are two individual. You must know, definitely in the exam questions come, given individual demand function, suppose this market only two individual, how to get the market demand? That is very simple. We have to add these two individual demand function like we did here previously. Add, you have to add. So 16 plus 8 is 24 minus 3p. You can see the P1, P2 at minus 3. So this is the market demand function. So how to get given individual demand function, this market demand function, very important. Now here, another thing also you must understand, this is the usual demand function. Sometimes you see the demand function in the textbook as written, even the exam paper, as a function of P function of Q. Like this. That's what we call inverse demand function. Inverse demand function. Inverse demand function. Now, for example, P equal, let's say, 16 minus 2p, 2q. If you write this way, what we call inverse demand function. But in the exam paper, if you are given individual, now let's say this is the P is individual demand function. Like the P, let's say the B is the individual demand function. Let's say here 10 minus P, very simple one. Adding these two, if you try to get the market demand function, that is not correct. Why? Here simply you add prices, not the quantity. Not the quantity, which are full in the exam. So what we have to do, first you have to convert this inverse demand function as the normal demand function. How do you do that? The quantity of demand to this side. So that's not difficult. Now I'll take the A's demand. So when you take this become 8 minus half 2, right? So this is the normal demand function. So like a B also you can convert into normal demand function. So answer is again 10 minus P. Adding these two, you can get the market demand function. So answer is 18 minus 1.5 or 1.5 P. So this is the market demand function. Now, if you were given inverse demand function and then asked to convert this individual inverse demand function into market demand function, don't directly add this individual inverse demand function. You have to convert into market and get it. Now, point again back to the previous example, the market demand function here, what we get is 24 minus 3p, which means here 24. Here we get here the maximum willingness to pay Continue. It's become 8. Here the maximum will be 8. Now here, since it's the market demand function, suppose the market price is 3. Now you can see, you can measure, when I say you take a piece of paper and pen, consumer surplus. Consumer surplus. Consumer surplus means the entire consumers, let's say the society has 2 people, both of them, their surplus you can measure. Here the difference is 5, was here 15. 15 times 5, 75. The consumer surplus is 30. Sorry, 37.5. Now, you see, this is the area, the consumer surplus. Now, understanding how to measure, how to get the consumer surplus, I will teach you later on how to get the nonlinear demand function, like here, kind of a nonlinear demand function, also how to measure the consumer surplus. But here, always I get the linear. After understanding your level, policy intervention also very important, like I said before. Now, let's say that as a policy maker, your target, your purpose, always improve the social welfare. Now, we know the part of the society, the consumers. Then the consumer welfare improvement mean you need the policies to increase the surplus. One simple conventional policy makers try to reduce the price and do so. For example, 1 unit, if you reduce the price, you can see definitely. And our policymakers think, oh, this is very well, and our consumer surplus improve and very good in the social welfare. But that has a problem. When you try to do so, this dollar it come from the producer. Producer surplus reduced. Producer is also part of the society. As a policymaker, you make the blunder there, you make the wrong turn there. Because rather than consumers, producers contribution more to the society, because the producers earn the surplus and the reinvest. That reinvestment is a help to the economic growth, like last time I explained. It helps to the shift production possibility from there. So then, as a policymaker, don't think just you reduce in price, try to improve the consumer surplus, it helps to the society, help to the economy. It may negatively, most probably, negatively affect to the way. Conventional policies, it may happen. I use the conventional policy, then what you have to think of, innovative new type of policies to improve the consumer surplus while improve the entire social welfare, not negatively affect to the other part in the society. That is the challenge of the policymaker. Our policymakers may not think of both sides or the other angle. They think that's why the policymakers just listen to IMF and doing the increase the tax always here and here, whatever they see, they try to impose the tax. So that negatively affect to the economy, and you can see consequences right now. The IMF thing happened because we had the crisis nowhere. That is always like a microfinance. Though within the country, within the society, we say the microfinance taken by low-income people and poor people. So this IMF thing also like Sri Lanka is the low income. Right? It's a microfinance and the society country level. What they do, they giving the loan definitely since we are in trouble, no option. And their purpose is, for example, look at the IMF project, World Bank project, and all the other those donors. And they try to get their loan and get their interest money. And the reality, today I listened to one of the retired person in the some place. He talked his speech. This really happened, the World Bank project. Their purpose is to earn income. What no option, we have to depend on IMF. But this IMF thing also, the conditions and things happen such a negative way to the society. In the increase in tax thing happen because our policymakers are not strong to argue, not strong to make the. I remember some time back I listened to the central bank governor's TV speech, and what he said is definitely IMF is very strong, though we can't make an argument there, and we just to listen to only get that. I mean, so we should able to take this money and use the different country-friendly policies, but it's not like that. So that discussion, I'll keep it in. Here, what I try to say, the exam, if I give a question like this, for example, how to, this kind of situation, improve consumer surplus. Don't just say the conventional policy, reduce the price and make this way improve. Think of some additional innovative way that answer I give full marks. If you just conventionally say like that, even I don't give marks. So that marking I do. Now, here, sorry. Oh, all right. This one, you can see this individual demand curve, individual A, individual B, and individual C. Adding individual demand, like you can see A in the 3.5, B's demand, and the C's demand, you can get the market demand. That's what we did. You already understand. This you get the market demand curve. And given the equation also A, B's demand curve like that, adding also you get the market demand curve. That is the exercise we learn. And also another thing what we learn, given individual and market demand, how to get the consumer surplus. And also we try to understand the willingness to pay and the maximum willingness to pay. Then think of how to improve, what kind of policy strategies we can introduce, conventional and innovative, to improve consumer surplus. So with that, I will stop right now. So this is the things what we discussed, the law of demand, that's what we call inverse relationship between price and quantity, given the other thing remain constant. So because of that, always you can see the theoretically demand curve has a negative slope and this one. And if someone mathematician there, usually when you look at the mathematical way, the P has to come as a horizontal axis and the vertical has to be quantity. So that is the, because this is the independent variable, this is the dependent variable. But in the, now what we learn, the demand analysis and P come to the vertical and horizontal come to Q. The reason is the David Ricardo is the one who is the mathematician, later become economics, and he did this one. So why this happened, I will explain later when you discuss the consumer theory of consumer behavior. And now next week we will learn the quantity of demand and quantity demanded, and why the demand curve shift up and down, why the move along the demand curve. Those reasons, those things we will discuss next week. And the same thing we will discuss the supply side. And later on, putting the supply and demand together, putting both together, consumer surplus and the producer surplus together, the policy discussion also we will do next week. At this point, I will stop today. And if you have any questions or clarification, you can ask me right now. Otherwise, you can leave the meeting. I saw some other already, 5 already left. And
So just a clarification. Just a clarification, sir. Those who attend Saturday do not have to do Sunday, no?
No. Same thing I repeat. If you want, you can attend, but no need. The same thing I repeat.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
Okay, good night, everybody. Enjoy tomorrow, the Sunday. I hope rainy days and you can shower. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Good night. Bye bye.
Thank you, sir. Good night.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Good night, sir.